Hello everybody on YouTube. Really nice to see you today. Sunny Saturday afternoon. And we've got, 50 people here in the room, which is really fantastic. Welcome to everybody. And I'm really excited about this series. We've actually been thinking about doing this sort of series for quite a while. So we've got 4 weeks on female deities, and I can't think of anyone better to actually curate this series than Dharmakarunya. So, I've just been asked to introduce her very briefly, and she's actually my Kalyana Mitra, so she's been very important in my whole spiritual journey and really helped me understand Buddhism. Her name means love of the Dharma, compassion for the Dharma. So that really, really shines out of Dharmakarunya. She's a very intellectual, very bright, very smart person who has put that mind towards the Dharma, and particularly, actually, towards women, gender issues, and she's very excited to share female deities and other wisdoms, really, how we represent Buddhism, how we are in that whole gender space, really. So she's a really fantastic person to talk about that. And really, I just want to say, for me, there's loads and loads of things I could say. I'm going to leave her to talk about the series, because there's 4 weeks on this series. But the things that really shine out for me about my friendship with Dharmakarunya is she's an incredibly loyal friend, incredibly generous friend, and she's a very, very genuine, honest person who just really shares how and who she is. And she's probably taught quite a few of you in this room. She's an absolutely outstanding Dharma teacher. She combines a real knowledge with a real lightness, and the other thing is a real humour, a lot of lightness, and a lot of care. So she's talking this week, and then she's asked other people to talk the next 3 weeks, so she'll talk about that. So let's give her a round of applause and welcome Dharmakarunya.
I'll sit down first. Okay, thank you. Right? Yeah, I think so. Well, the thing is, it's technology, isn't it? So, if at any point you can't hear me, will you gesticulate wildly as if you were bringing an aircraft into land at the Buddhist Center, and I'll do something about it. So, it's buzzing. Oh, okay. Is there anything we can do about the buzz? Is it too close to me? Is that better? Uh-huh. Okay, I'll bring it. Yeah, okay. Well, I hope it isn't too irritating for you. So today is March the 8th, and it's International Women's Day. And International Women's Day, as lots of us know, really, is a day in the year where we particularly mark women's contribution to society and politics and culture and so on. So it seemed a very fitting date to launch this series on female deities at the centre. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of the afternoon before I launch into saying something about the series. So this is an afternoon of several parts, and it will finish around 4 o'clock. And then there'll be some mixing and mingling, if that's what you'd like to do, downstairs. So I'm going to start by saying something about the series, and then I'll say a little bit of something about the perfection of wisdom tradition, from where today's figure emanates. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about Prajnaparamita, our female deity for today, and her symbols. And then we're going to have an activity, she said mysteriously, related to what I've just said. Then I hope to have a little bit of a break. It might be a very short sort of leg stretch kind of break, or it might be a slightly longer break, we'll see. And then the kind of second part of this afternoon will be a short devotional activity related to Prajnaparamita. So that's what it looks like. And I hope, notwithstanding the wonderful weather, the extraordinary weather today. I hope that you'll feel able, if you can, to stay for the whole afternoon. So why this series? Well, I've been coming to the MBC for about 20 years. Can you still hear me at the back? Excellent. Okay, I've been coming to the MBC for about 20 years. And over this time, we've had a number of series about different figures in the Buddhist tradition. We've had at least a couple of series on the 5 jhanas, the 5 archetypal Buddhas, and we've had other sessions on other figures, but I can't remember at all there being anything about any of the female figures in Buddhism. That's not any kind of criticism on my part, by the way, but I just thought it would be really helpful and important to organize a short series related to female deities in the Buddhist tradition. Not least because they're part of many people's practice in the Sangha, including Bhante Sangharakshita, the root teacher and founder of Triratna, who had a very long-standing connection with green Tara, as well as with other figures. So one of my aims in wanting to launch this series was to foreground some of these female figures so that they're more widely known. Most societies, including Indo-Tibetan societies, are patriarchal in their history. And those values can influence the way that we engage with some of the figures in the Buddhist tradition. And sometimes we can project those values onto them. And yet, engaging with these figures in an open-hearted way can really deepen our practice, whatever our level of experience. So whether it's as seemingly inconsequential as carrying a postcard of Tara in your pocket or a little rupa, or you might, if you're more experienced, you might meditate on a figure on an almost daily basis. There are all sorts of ways that we can engage with these figures. Now, we're probably more familiar with figures. I hope that we're familiar with the historical Buddha. That would be a bit of an oversight on our part, wouldn't it, if saying, who is this fellow? So we'll be familiar with the historical Buddha. We might be familiar with Avalokiteshvara, who is the figure associated with Triratna. We might be familiar with Padmasambhava, the guru Padmasambhava. And in this series, we're going to meet 4 figures which you may or may not be familiar with. So the first one that we'll be engaging with today is Prajnaparamita. The one coming next week, which Tara Lochana will be presenting, is Tara, but specifically with a focus on white Tara. In week 3, I'm really pleased also that we've got Sakyamuni, who's going to be introducing Vajrayogini. And last but far from least, we've got Surya Shraddha, who's very kindly agreed to present Pandaravasini. So in advance, thank you again to all of those people who've agreed to step up and do something for the series. It's a real gift, I think, to the Sangha when people step forward very wholeheartedly and say, yeah, of course I'll do that. That's great. So all of these figures are embodiments of enlightened consciousness. Now that sounds rather an abstract thing, perhaps on a Saturday afternoon with the sun shining. What does it actually mean? So since these figures are archetypes, these figures exist outside space and time, in a way, they're empty. And yet, emptiness is also form. So they both exist and they don't exist at the same time. They exist in a way that's immaterial and non-literal. But they offer something very important and potentially very life-changing. So these figures emerge into human consciousness as powerful figures to support our practice, And so however you identify, these figures are available to everyone. So they embody qualities that transcend worldly identifications. So they can't be reduced. Having said, we've launched this series on International Women's Day. Having said that, we can't reduce them to any sort of worldly gender ideology. As Vasantara notes in his book on female deities, and if you don't know it, I would really recommend this book. It's very good and it's short. And it's an ideal book if you're thinking after this series you'd like to dip your toes into some of the other figures and know a little bit more. It's an ideal sort of, how can I put this? And I don't mean this in an insulting way at all, but a very good starter text to get into the realm of female deities. So Vasantara talks about these figures as living forces. And it might be helpful to see them as sort of supreme role models in our practice, or it might not, okay? So we can think about how we might work with them. Though the relationship we have with these archetypal figures is on their terms, not ours. Because by engaging with them, we open into another dimension. We open into a mythic and archetypal realm. So we can't sort of co-opt or use these figures for our own ends. So it's not some kind of, I love this expression, I think it might be from The Tempest, it's not some kind of vulgar magic that we're doing with these figures. They're figures that we might slowly come into relationship. If this resonates for us, and it may not, but if it does, they're figures that we can come into relationship with. And here, the imagination becomes the gateway to this archetypal realm and beyond. So there's a crucial aspect of self-surrender, letting go into this practice in the way that we engage with them and their qualities. In a nutshell, it's about being open to how these figures might manifest for us. So this week, we're engaging with Prajnaparamita, or the goddess of perfect wisdom, the goddess of perfect wisdom. She sounds like a really good person to have around. In the Mahayana tradition of Buddhism, which evolved in the centuries after the Buddha's passing, liberating wisdom was represented as female, whereas compassion was associated with the male principle. And before I say more about the figure, I need to say something about the perfection of wisdom tradition which she embodies. Now, those of us who maybe have a little bit more experience in practice will know that that's quite a nonsensical statement to say, to begin to talk about the perfection of wisdom. But it's one of those situations where we use words for spiritual purposes, we use words to get free of words. Because in a way, the realm that we're going to be entering is very much a wordless realm, the perfection of wisdom realm. Now, if this all sounds a bit sort of wacky and weird at this stage, just say that if has anybody heard of the Heart Sutra? I know lots of you have, okay? Some people haven't, fine, okay. If any of you have been to a sevenfold puja in this building or elsewhere, you will have come across the perfection of wisdom tradition. But please don't worry if the answer to both of those questions is no. So 500 years after the Buddha, the perfection of wisdom teachings arose. And some of them are very long. Buddhism is very good at doing length, isn't it? It's good at doing lists and it's good at doing length. And some of them are extraordinarily short. So the shortest perfection of wisdom teaching is simply the letter A. And the letter A means not. So what this, I think, is getting at is that whatever you think the teaching is, it's not. And an order member called Ratnagosha has described trying to grasp the perfection of wisdom teachings as like trying to grasp a bar of soap. Very tricky. So there is this sense that whenever we think we've got it, whenever we think we've grasped it, we haven't. Okay? Now, this is not an exercise in frustration, but I think really what it's maybe pointing to is encouraging us in our journey, really, and saying, don't settle down in your practice, whatever your practice might look like. Yeah? Even if you've just started to come to the Buddhist Center, or whether you've been practicing for decades, as some people in this room have. So whatever you think it is, it isn't. Now, the most well-known teachings in the wisdom tradition are the Heart Sutra, the Diamond Sutra, and the Ratnaguna Samchayagata. The Diamond Sutra was a text that Sangharakshita read when he was 16, which is, very young to be reading that kind of stuff. I was listening to Bob Dylan when I was 16. Maybe I should have been reading the Diamond Sutra, but anyway. And reading the Diamond Sutra, he realized immediately that he was a Buddhist. Yeah? So these teachings are mysterious teachings which relate to emptiness or shunyata. And what lies far beyond ideas and concepts and words. So they can be described as pointing to the transcendental, or to perfect wisdom and compassion, and yet in content they can't be described or grasped at all, which is why they're quite difficult to talk about, because they're pointing to something. A couple of other examples of perfection of wisdom teachings, short ones, okay. This is the end of the Diamond Sutra. As a star, as a waterfall, a spark or illusion, a dewdrop, a bubble, a dream, a cloud or lightning, all things are conditioned. View them all like this. And then from the Empty Bowl Sutra, a little bit longer, all those, this is Manjushri speaking, by the way, all those who can remain unshaken by the wisdom of the teachings of the Buddhas know that dharmas are essentially empty, without name or appearance, support or duration, without anything to hold or control, get in the way or possess. They're like space. There's nothing to cling to, nothing to grasp. Perfectly and utterly still, they're free from birth or extinction, defilement or purification, creation or destruction, existence or non-existence. Anyone who has achieved a deep acceptance of this is never apart from the teachings of the Buddhas. And how so? The teachings of the Buddhas have no nature or characteristics. They can't be postulated, they can't be expressed or made explicit. No matter where there are beings, the teachings of the Buddhas remain empty. Essentially, what we're saying here is the teachings can't be fixed or pinned down. They're dynamic teachings. So before he died, the Buddha apparently saw the perfection of wisdom texts as secret teachings, which were not suitable for his era. So they were rather mythically taken to the bottom of the ocean for safekeeping by the Naga kings. So the Naga kings, who are the Naga kings? The Naga kings are sort of mythical half human, half creature-like things. They're guardians of the Dharma treasures. And they're half human and they're half serpent. So the teachings were at the bottom of the ocean for a very long time. And the ocean is often a metaphor used in the scriptures for the Dharma, yeah? Because it's free-flowing, and it's deep. Then Nagarjuna, a figure on our refuge tree, received these teachings and then went on to become a major figure with the perfection of wisdom tradition. Now, over time, as all things do, everything rises and falls, even the bad stuff, fortunately. Over time, the perfection of wisdom tradition declined, and this led to the birth, in inverted commas, of our figure today, Prajnaparamita. The sacred book, the perfection of wisdom teachings, became a goddess. Okay, so she became this figure that represented those teachings. So we have two representations of the figure here. They're both the same figure taken at different times of year. Some of you will recognize where the figure has been taken from. It's from Taraloka, the women's retreat centre in Shropshire. This form is a two-armed form. There's also a four-armed form. And it's a copy of a statue in Java. But of course, you don't need to go to Java, to Jakarta, to see the statue. You can see it in the grounds at Taraloka, or you can see it today here. So it's a copy of that figure. And personally, I've felt a very strong connection with this statue for a very long time. One of my very, very earliest retreats was a weekend retreat at Taraloka, and I was quite terrified of going to a Buddhist retreat for the weekend. So I clutched my car keys in my pocket. But one of the first things I saw that weekend was this rupa, this statue of Prajnaparamita. And for me, it will represent many different things for different people, but for me, it represents the unshakable and absolute aspects of wisdom, of transcendental wisdom. Whatever is happening with me personally, whatever is happening collectively in the world, it's this unshakable, absolute quality of perfect wisdom. So Prajnaparamita usually appears as golden. Sometimes she's white. But as we approach her, we see that this light is made up of infinite golden Buddhas. So she's made up of infinite golden Buddhas. So a very beautiful figure. And she sits in a posture of contemplation, the meditation posture. And she's associated with different emblems which signify different things. Because we're looking at the two-armed version, we don't have all her emblems in these particular representations. But I'm going to tell you what the emblems are, and this will be relevant to something that we're going to be doing later. You don't have to memorize them, by the way, okay, because I've written them up. So she's associated with different emblems, and these emblems are the lotus, okay, or the flower of receptivity. So Amitabha here on the shrine, right below him, he's sitting, he or she or they, who knows, is sitting on a giant lotus. Yeah, so that's a lotus. So the lotus signifies receptivity, and the lotus is also represented in the image of Prajnaparamita. She too sits on a lotus. So receptivity. Her second quality is the book. She holds a book in her hands, in one of her four hands. And the book, of course, signifies the Dharma. Her third emblem is one of these, which is a Vajra, or a diamond thunderbolt. So this represents the thunderbolt of reality, very dynamic energy, okay? It's a very powerful symbol. Her fourth emblem is a sword. And the sword signifies the cutting through of wrong views. I thought it was probably against health and safety to bring a sword into the shrine room. I don't think we've got one in the shop, actually, but yeah, but I think we know what a sword is, so that's hopefully okay. Her fourth emblem is the mala, or a rosary, so a string of beads. And the mala signifies or represents devotion or reverence, but it also can represent continuity. So continuity of purpose. Yes, continuity of purpose is really, was really important in the Dharma life. Yeah, however your practice is, yeah, it's very important, as Bob Dylan said, to keep on keeping on. It's not his best phrase, of course, but there we go. Yeah, so to keep on keeping on. So the mala represents that continuity of purpose as well as devotion and reverence. And then lastly, the final emblem is the begging bowl. So the begging bowl, I guess we know what this represents. It represents humility in our practice, which is of course why, we might dedicate our merits. We're not building ego, we're practicing the Dharma. It also represents generosity, and it also represents non-attachment to worldly things. So not taking refuge in worldly things. So Prajnaparamita has a rather fancy tiara as well. So her rather fancy tiara is made up of 5 jewels. And the 5 jewels represent the 5 mythical Buddhas, the 5 jhinas. And just in case you can't remember or you've never known who the 5 jhinas are, these are Amitabha, who's on our shrine, Ratnasambhava, Amoghasiddhi, Akshobhya, and Varochana. These are the 5 jhinas, or the 5 mythical Buddhas. And Prajnaparamita teaches by reciting a mantra. So we'll be reciting her mantra later on this afternoon. And her mantra, there are several mantras associated with Prajnaparamita and the perfection of wisdom, but her mantra is Om Adi Hung Swaha. Om Adi Hung Swaha. And you might say, well, okay, what does that mean? And I'm afraid it's untranslatable. But the central syllable, the D, D-H-I-H syllable, is a wisdom syllable. So basically it's wisdom. She's reciting wisdom. She's transferring wisdom. And she has a couple of things that are in common with another figure who some of you might know, called Manjushri. So I mentioned before that she has a sword, cutting through wrong views. And the wisdom syllable she also shares with Manjushri, who's also a wisdom figure. Now, Prajnaparamita is described as the mother of all Buddhas, yeah, which is quite a strong sort of epithet way of describing her, isn't it? And I think this is not to be understood literally. It means that perfect wisdom precedes all Buddhas, okay, including Shakyamuni. And that Buddhas emerge from the realization of perfect wisdom. Because if you're going to have a Buddha around, which hopefully one has, we want the Buddha to have perfect wisdom, don't we? We want the Buddha to have been birthed from perfect wisdom. And in the 8,000-line Perfection of Wisdom Sutra, it said that all Buddhas owe their existence to her. So motherhood here is a metaphor for origination, for protection, and supreme wisdom. So that was also a reason to start the series with Prajnaparamita, that she's the source, according to scholars, of subsequent female goddesses and Darkinis. She is the emanation of mature, deep wisdom, which is ungraspable. Because wisdom is not about knowledge. In fact, and Sangharakshita said, you need to know very little Dharma, which for those of us who like teaching the Dharma kind of puts us out of business. Well, metaphorically speaking. Because it's not about knowledge or accumulating lots of Dharma. It's not about accumulating ideas. I quite like ideas, but it's not about those either, and it's not about accumulating status. To practice wisdom, we just have to be fully receptive, have an open heart, and try and get ourselves out of the way. And here I think if you've come across the teaching of the three wisdoms, I think it can be quite helpful to remember them here. The three wisdoms of listening to the Dharma, reflecting on it, and then meditating or realizing it. It might mean literally meditating, being on the cushion, but it also means realizing the teachings in your lives. So it's not about a rational set of arguments or rationality or some metaphysical truth that anybody is trying to get past your brain cells. It's not a set of arguments to accept or reject. And it's beyond literalism. This is the terrain of the perfection of wisdom teachings. So it's a wisdom that comes into being when greed, hatred, and delusion are no longer present. Yeah? So if we can, I always think those sound really alarming, greed, hatred, and delusion. And of course they manifest in all sorts of sneaky ways, don't they? In kind of little weaselly kind of ways, as well as very gross kinds of ways in our lives, as outright hatred. But also maybe it's just some kind of preference sometimes that you'd rather have met. So wisdom is what happens when greed, hatred, and delusion are no longer present. And what remains is the flow of conditions, is emptiness, is non-duality. So we're no longer dividing the world up into likes and dislikes, attachments and hatreds. We are open. I'm almost at the end of what I'm going to say. Not quite. So this is why Prajnaparamita sits in contemplation, reciting an incomprehensible mantra. It's a warm wisdom. It's a wisdom beyond words, and she's welcoming us home to reality, welcoming us back to reality, to how things are when we let go of our likes and dislikes, our attachments, our hatreds. When we stop trying to control things, and obviously the world is quite a scary place, there's a lot of things happening, most of which we can't control. But when we stop trying to control things and we can let experience flow more freely, this is what Prajnaparamita is trying, that's the wisdom that she's trying to teach us. In a way, it's very simple, but in another way, it takes a while to get it, certainly in my case. So I'm going to end by evoking Prajnaparamita in these verses, short verses, from the Perfection of Wisdom in 8,000 lines. So just 8 lines from the 8,000. She is perfect wisdom that never comes into being, and therefore never goes out of being. She's known as the Great Mother. She's the perfect wisdom that gives birthless birth to all Buddhas. And through these sublimely awakened ones, it is Mother Prajnaparamita alone who turns the wheel of true teaching. Okay, so maybe we'll just take a couple of minutes to take some space for ourselves. Okay, so as they say on Mission Impossible, I have a suggested activity now, if you're willing to play along. So what I thought we'd do is, again in a minute, the list of Prajnaparamita's symbols. And I would like to suggest that you don't give any thought to this. Gravitate to the symbol that speaks to you as quickly as it can speak to you. So don't overthink it. I know lotuses are nice, but don't overthink it. So just gravitate towards a symbol, and then for about 15 minutes or so, I would like to suggest that you reflect on this symbol and how it might speak to you in your practice, whatever that practice might be at this time, how it might speak to you in your life. Okay, so that's for about 15 minutes. And then if you're willing, we'll go into very small groups of 3. And if you want to share, you're very welcome to do so. If you don't, feel free to go and have a cup of tea. Okay? So I'll put the list up again, because I'm sure that it's not easy to remember all these symbols.
Moving it into the middle of the room.
Sure. Okay. Oh dear, something's falling off. Is that okay? Okay, so go with your first inclination. So we have lotus, book, Vajra, sword, mala, begging bowl. begging bowl. Lotus, book, Vajra, sword, mala, begging bowl. Okay, so just go with it. Okay. So 15 minutes to think about how that symbol and what it represents might resonate for you. So lotus, receptivity. The book is the Dharma, wisdom texts. Vajra, reality or energy. The sword, cutting through wrong views. Can you see, Helen? Are you okay? Okay. Mala, devotion, reverence and continuity. And lastly, the begging bowl, humility and renunciation. Okay. I might actually move. Oops. Okay, so it's 2:43, so I'll ding a bell at just before 3. Okay, so the next part is to get together with two other people, making small groups of 3. Sorry, move closer to the mic because it's there. Yeah, so if you can find 2 other people and make a small group of 3, and then maybe about 5 minutes each, where you might like to share anything you feel comfortable sharing about your reflections of the last few minutes on one of Prajnaparamita's symbolic objects. And if that's not something that appeals to you, then do feel free to go and have a cup of tea or something. Okay? Yeah, we'll come back in 15 minutes, so that will be about 3:15. Okay, just a couple of minutes left now. Hello. Hi, I'm all right. How are you? Good. Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah, nice to see you here.
First of all, 15 minutes, it's a long time. It was a really positive experience.
Oh, yeah. Good.
I sort of feel the energy. So I don't know how long you think about something for a few minutes, but just enforced quietness and just not chanting anything, just going for one. So I went straight for the Vajrayogini.
Great.
Straight for it.
Okay. Well, I hope that was yeah, helpful and an interesting way of reflecting. Of course, yeah, yeah. So we have a little bit, if we can have a little bit of a leg stretch now, if you'd like, because I'm aware that we've been static in the shrine room for over an hour now. So should we have a 5-minute break and use it as you wish, and then we'll come back in 5 minutes and have a devotional activity. In other words, we're going to be doing a puja. Thank you. Okay, well, welcome back. I hope that was a nice little break. So we're going to do a short puja to Prajnaparamita, and we'll do a visualization before the puja begins. I think we'll probably stay in our places because it's a bit of a malarkey to reorganize the shrine room at this stage. There'll be the Prajnaparamita mantra coming after the first section of worship, which I'll obviously start. And if you know it, it would be lovely if you joined in. And if you don't know it, don't worry, it'll just happen, okay? And there'll also be the traditional reading of the Heart Sutra. How could it not be the Heart Sutra? So again, if that's a text, if that's something that you know, you're very welcome to join in. And if you don't worry, because it'll happen anyway, okay? Okay, so let's just take a few minutes to settle ourselves down from activity and into a stiller space. And can everybody hear me at the back? Okay, thank you. So just settling ourselves down into a stiller space. So letting go of the activity of movement and speech, and settling into our posture of stillness and reverence. And today we're blessed with a blue sky. And let's bring that blue sky to mind. An infinite, bright blue sky. Up above the city is this bright blue sky. And above the noise and all the activity, beyond that is always the blue sky. So let's enjoy this blue sky. This blue sky that is beautifully empty and beautifully full of possibility. And in the distance, we can see something gold emerging through this blue. It's a golden, shimmering figure. In the far distance, it looks as though it is solid gold. And it's emerging through this infinite blue sky. So this figure is seated in a posture of contemplation. She is a goddess figure. She carries an aura of great nobility. And she is seated on a moon mat and on a blue lotus. As the figure comes into view, we realize that she is luminous. And as we look closer, we see that her whole being is made up of many, many millions of golden Buddhas. She is holding her hands in a teaching mudra, teaching us the way things are. We can feel comfortable in her presence. This is a very embracing and warm wisdom. It is perfect wisdom. A puja to the Buddha Prajnaparamita. Firstly, worship. We'll do this in call and response. Bright Queen of the sky.
Bright Queen of the sky.
Radiant in glory.
Radiant in glory.
Brilliant you shine.
Brilliant you shine.
Like the sun at its height.
Like the sun at its height.
And far spread your beams.
And far spread your beams.
Through infinite space.
Through infinite space.
Piercing the gloom.
Piercing the gloom.
Like dawn's gentle rays.
Like dawn's gentle rays.
O bringer of vision.
O bringer of vision.
To those who are lost.
To those who are lost.
And stumble in the darkness.
And stumble in the darkness.
In the thick night.
In the thick night.
O beacon of wisdom.
O beacon of wisdom.
Dispeller of darkness.
Dispeller of
Destroyer of craving. Illumine my life. So the Prajnaparamita mantra now, which I'll begin. Om Adi Hong Swaha. 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 Salutation. Salutation. Gold is your body, like ripening corn. Blue are your eyes, gazing far inward. And dark is your hair, as it falls by your side. Jewels adorn you, and silks flow upon you. You are seated serene, poised in samadhi, perfectly still, in the infinite sky. Confession. Mother of Buddhas, and all of the wisdoms, knower of essence, and bearer of jnana, Shunyata's emblem. Please hear me confess. When I have been unskillful with my body, I have forgotten you. When I have been unskillful with my speech, I have forgotten you. When I have been unskillful with my mind, I have forgotten you. In many ways, at many times, in many places, I have forgotten you. I confess all my failings, my weakness, my blindness. Oh, hear my confessions, and grant me your blessing. Entreaty. O silent one, wise one, O knower of secrets, whisper to me the sound before silence. Enter my heart with the wisdom of D. May D fill my heart. May D fill my speech. May D fill my mind. O wide is my heart. Please grant me your teaching. So the Heart Sutra, traditionally in unison. So feel free to just listen if that's what you'd like to do. The Bodhisattva of compassion, when he meditated deeply, saw the emptiness of all 5 skandhas and sundered the bonds that caused him suffering. Here then, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form. Form is only emptiness, emptiness only form. Feeling, thought, and choice, consciousness itself, are the same as this. All things are by nature void. They are not born or destroyed, nor are they stained or pure, nor do they wax or wane. So, in emptiness, no form, no feeling, thought, or choice, nor is there consciousness. No eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. No color, sound, smell, taste, touch, or what the mind takes hold of, nor even act of sensing. No ignorance or end of it, nor all that comes of ignorance. No withering, no death, no end of them. Nor is there pain or cause of pain, or cease in pain, or noble path to lead from pain, not even wisdom to attain. Attainment too is emptiness. So know that the Bodhisattva, holding to nothing whatever, but dwelling in prajna wisdom, is freed of delusive hindrance, rid of the fear bred by it, and reaches clearest nirvana. All Buddhas of past and present, Buddhas of future time, using this prajna wisdom, come to full and perfect vision. Hear then the great Dharani, the radiant, peerless mantra, the Prajnaparamita, whose words allay all pain. Hear and believe its truth. Gate, gate, paragate, parasangate, bodhi swaha. Gate, gate, paragate, parasangate, bodhi swaha. Gate, gate, paragate, parasangate, bodhi swaha. Completion. O great Lady Prajnaparamita, may I rest in your beauty. Suffuse me, O bright one, with your golden light. May D pervade me, transforming defilements. May it shine through me, with the warmth of compassion. Now and at all times. May your secret light illumine my mind. May it guide me to the truth. Now we'll recite the Perfection of Wisdom mantra. Gate, gate, paragate, parasangate, bodhi swaha. Gate, gate, paragate, parasangate, bodhi swaha. Gate, gate, paragate, parasangate, bodhi swaha. And finally, the concluding mantras. Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Vajrapani Hong. Om Vajrapani Hong. Om Vajrapani Hong. Om Tare. Tu Tare. Ture. Swaha. Om Tare. Tu Tare. Ture. Swaha. Om Tare. Tu Tare. Ture. Swaha. Om Amideva Hri. Om Amideva Hri. Om Amideva Hri. Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha. Gate, gate, paragate. Parasangate Buddhi Swaha. Gate, gate, paragate. Parasangate Buddhi Swaha. Gate, gate, paragate. Parasangate Buddhi Swaha. Om Shanti. 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 thank you for coming this afternoon and for your participation, whether you've been in the room or on YouTube. Thank you to the YouTubers too. Good to have you here. So that concludes our first chapter, as it were, of the Female Deities series. So I do hope that you'll be coming next week, where we'll be meeting Tara. Okay, so hope to see you next week. Thank you.